Um, he's a 5'5", 5'5" midget. And shit, I know what I can do.
Keyshawn Davis won't be giving up Tank anytime soon. Because of Gervonta Tank's great achievement, everyone wants to be like him.
Hey Shakur, like I was telling Bud, it's either you or Keyshawn's gonna get tanked, so the walls are closing in. So awesome.
It's gonna be him though.
It makes sense. He's closer.
Big brother learn.
Things are getting more and more interesting. Recently, Keyshawn insulted Tank, and now Lamont Roach wants to fight Tank again. Let's get you caught up. Recently, Keyshawn Davis held a news conference where he said some things that will make people talk. This time, he was very direct about his feelings toward Tank. It wasn't enough for Keyshawn to say he could beat Tank. He said he doesn't even see him as a threat. Keyshawn has already called Tank Short Dwarf a liar and insulted him many times. As if that wasn't enough, he went even further and said Tank's record isn't real and that he hasn't fought anyone.
Chasing after you, I'm not chasing you. Little dude, little dwarf, Oopa Loopa, little light-skinned dude. I'm not chasing you. I'm not chasing you.
For someone with just 12 fights under his belt, Keyshawn is hitting big with the trash talk Tank, of course. I wasn't going to let that slide kid call me stupid and say all these mean things about how I deck opponents when he's been getting Cruz for years. Tank fired back, do something with his life after he beats Andy Cruz, then I might take him seriously when he says he's looking for a job.
Who's a bigger challenge for you right now? Andy Gomez, or we just heard Willie from Boxeo Cubano ask you about your boy Frank Martin?
Frank Martin, definitely. He's more of a seasoned pro. Be a harder fight.
Keyshawn seems to think these comments will get him closer to the fight he wants, but Tank's not biting. To be fair, it's easy to see why Keyshawn is turning up the nose. He knows Tank is the golden ticket. One fight with Tank and you're suddenly a popular name, not to mention the kind of payday that can change your life, but there's a fine line between confidence and clowning, and Keyshawn might just be crossing it and, to be honest, Keyshawn's obsession with Tank feels like a real challenge and more like a marketing ploy. After his second round upset win over Gustavo Lemos earlier this month, Keyshawn started name-dropping Tank left and right, acting like the fight was already in motion. But here's the thing, Tank doesn't need Keyshawn. Whether we like Tank or not, he's an established star undefeated with 28 knockouts and sitting safely as one of the top dogs in boxing. Keyshawn, on the other hand, has a lot to show. He's got talent, but his record is padded with mid-level fighters.
Those are two messages before I get off this damn live. Tell lil bro, turn his punches over, you're pro now, okay? Turn the punches over. Those slaps is not gonna get counted pro, okay? Eddie Hearns, no more tweeting. Stop tweeting my name. You trying to keep building this man off my name. This man ain't touched no type of television in America. Stop trying to build your man off my name. You wanna fight?
And it's not like Keyshawn has swept everyone around him. There's the Andy Cruz problem. Keyshawn would love everyone to forget Cruz beat him 4 times in the amateurs, including a brutal loss in the 2020 Olympics. That last loss left Keyshawn unraveling in the ring, looking like he might need a timeout in the locker room just to process what had happened. It was one of those times fans don't forget, and neither does Tank. He's been avoiding Cruz for a reason. Tank said, if he's too scared to handle his old rival, what makes him think he can handle me? He's out here calling me short, but he's the one who can measure up.
You know what I'm saying? So I was go fight the from Cuba. No, nigga, I'm fighting. I'm gonna fight Tank. Stop mentioning other people when I mention your fighter. What you talking about, boy? Like, don't play with me, bro. Y'all know how I'm coming. Tank, if you wanna fight, send me a contract.
And that's the whole point of it. Tank sees Keyshawn as all talk and no walk. And honestly, Tank has a point. Keyshawn has been dodging Cruz like his future depends on it. Cruz has even called Keyshawn his son, a jab that stings because it feels true. If Keyshawn won't step up to face Cruz, why should anyone think he's ready for someone like Tank?
American, you still trying to adapt to this, to our environment. You still trying to build yourself, so why the fuck do you
My son.
Andy Cruz, I don't gotta fight.
Keyshawn, though, isn't slowing down when asked about his chances against Tank. He didn't pause. I've sparred with Tank before. I know how he thinks. I've felt his power, and it's nothing I can't handle. I'll beat him, no question, he said firmly.
Crazy about that is, this time around, it was like, all right, we older now. There's more skills involved. It's like, all right, now let's see how it's gonna go this time. And when I got in the ring, I'm not gonna lie, he surprised me with how much defense he really had. Of course.
But sparring is just practice. It's not the real deal, and Tank everyone in the sport knows that Keyshawn's other big claim that Tank's record is weak is laughable to anyone who knows boxing. Tank's fought killers like Leo Santa Cruz, Mario Barros, and Ryan Garcia. Compare that to Keyshawn, who's yet to fight anyone near that level, and the gap becomes clear, yet Keyshawn keeps talking almost as if he's hoping no one will notice the difference.
Davis Keyshawn, this new guy, he's 140 pounds, he's not bad.
Yeah,
Keyshawn Davis.
It's not just the Tank who's calling Keyshawn out, though fans and experts are starting to question whether Keyshawn is all hype and top rank. The company pushing him seems to be protecting him with careful matchmaking by keeping him away from tough opponents like Cruz. They're trying to build him up as a star without risking a loss, but fans see through that, and the longer he avoids Cruz, the worse it looks.
I feel like Tank is the type of fighter where he'll either be offensive first, but he's very, 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 very patient, and then just try to catch you slipping.
The attacks aren't helping his case either. Calling Tank short and saying he doesn't have a resume might get headlines, but it doesn't make Keyshawn look like a real threat. If anything, it makes him look desperate, and despair doesn't win fights.
You are good. You are real good. But there's levels to this game, Keyshawn.
Okay, we gonna talk about levels. Okay, just know.
Tank, meanwhile, isn't missing any sleep over Keyshawn's words. The truth is, Keyshawn knows a fight with Tank isn't coming anytime soon. He's mandatory for the WBO lightweight title held by Denis Berinchyk, and that's likely his next move. But instead of focusing on that, he's using Tank's name to keep himself in the spotlight. It's a smart strategy if your goal is to stay important, but it's not going to earn the fight he wants.
Tank said he's now the new face of boxing. What do you think?
For sure, he's the face of boxing. I don't have no problem with saying that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he deserves everything that's coming to him. He's the face of boxing for sure.
If Keyshawn really wants to be taken seriously, there's an easy solution. Fight Andy Cruz. Cruz beating Cruz would shut up the naysayers and show he's ready for the next level. But until that happens, all the insults in the world won't change the fact that Tank isn't taking him seriously for now. Keyshawn keeps talking, Tank keeps brushing him off, and fans keep arguing whether Keyshawn is the real deal or just another loudmouth looking for a quick payday. One thing's for sure, if these two ever do fight, the build-up alone will be worth the price of ticket. But until Keyshawn proves himself, it's all just nose.
Get with it. That I'm trying to ride his coattail. Like, bro, I don't need you. I don't have to fight you. I'm making real. I don't need you, bro. If you want to fight me, send me a contract. But if you don't, I'm gonna be just as popular fighting you or not fighting you. I'm gonna make my money fighting you or not fighting you.
However, we can almost say the same about literally any other boxer that is chasing a fight with Tank. Take Lamont Roach, for example. Lamont Roach might be the most confident underdog in boxing right now, but his recent comments are making people question if he's a little too caught up in his own goals. Rook hasn't even stepped into the ring with Tank yet, and he's already talking about a rematch and even bigger plans for a third fight. If you didn't know better, you'd think he already beat Tank and was riding his victory lap, but reality paints a much different picture, and boxing fans aren't letting him forget.
Hey, you been knowing me though. I'm just getting to know you, sir. I don't know shit about you. They been knowing me. I'm just getting to know you, sir. You know I've been saying no business. I ain't know who you.
The fight between Roach and Tank has already been postponed from its original December 14th date, and it's now penciled in for March 1st. The promoters are worried the fight won't sell as planned, which raises an eyebrow about why it was booked in the first place. Roach, with a record of January 1st 25 and just 10 knockouts, isn't exactly someone fans have been wanting to see. Tank, on the other hand, is undefeated at 30-0 with 28 knockouts and known for selling out arenas. The mismatch in popularity and power has most fans calling this fight a foregone conclusion.
Reasons for the Tank Roach move: there's zero fan interest in the fight. People don't want to see Tank cherry pick another opponent after having done so for a solid 11 years. Fans want to see a 50-50 fight involving Tank, and they've yet to see him in a pick'em match during his career.
But Rook doesn't see it that way. In fact, he's so confident or delusional, depending on who you ask, that he's telling fans to get ready for a rematch. There's a rematch clause, people Roach said on X, so get ready for 2 fights. And after I beat Tank the second time, I'll ask the WBA to let me go up to 140 and fight Rayo Valenzuela for his light welterweight belt. Let's break this down. Rook is talking about not 1 but 2 victories over Tank. Davis is a fighter who has knocked out nearly everyone he's faced. And after those back-to-back wins, Rook plans to move up in weight and chase another belt. It's a bold strategy, but it's got fans scratching their heads. How is Rook already talking about a second payday with Tank when the first fight hasn't even happened for many? It sounds like he's getting way ahead of himself. Fans on social media haven't been kind. Many are laughing at Rook, calling him delusional and saying he's got no chance of winning the first fight, let alone a rematch. And honestly, the numbers don't lie. Rook has just 10 knockouts in 27 fights, which isn't exactly the kind of power that scares someone like Tank. Plus he's coming up in weight to face a fighter who's been dominant across 3 divisions. It's hard to see how the Roach skill set matches up against Tank's explosive power and speed. Tank hasn't been shy about how he feels about the matchup either. He's been criticized in the past for what fans call safe matchmaking, and this fight isn't helping his case. Roach is seen by many as a soft opponent, a fighter plucked from the super featherweight division to give Tank an easy night. Rook, of course, isn't buying into the narrative that he's just another cherry-picked opponent. He's talking like someone who believes he's got Tank all figured out. "People underestimate me," he said, "but I've been training for this my whole life. I've studied Tank, and I know how to beat him. It's going to shock a lot of people, but I'm ready for it." It's a nice sentiment, but boxing isn't about words. Tank has heard this kind of talk before, and it hasn't stopped him from putting opponents to sleep. Fighters like Ryan Garcia, Mario Barros, and Leo Santa Cruz all came into their fights with Tanks confident in their ability to win, and they all left on the wrong side of a highlight reel. Roach, which doesn't bring anything to the table that those fighters didn't accept, maybe a stronger imagination about what happens after the fight.
I mean, and they have a problem that Tank Davis isn't the draw that they thought he was because he's not fighting anybody. The only time he grew was when he fought Ryan Garcia. All the other ones were colossal failures.
The whole situation has fans asking why this fight is happening at all. When it was first mentioned, the plan was to hold it in Baltimore or Washington, D.C., where Roach is. The idea was that it would do well locally even if the matchup wasn't the most exciting. But then the fight was moved to Houston, Texas, taking away even that justification. Now it's starting to look like the fight was a bad idea. From the start, fans were hoping Tank would face someone like Edwin Dos Santos, Keyshawn Davis, Floyd Schofield, Andy Cruz, or William Zappa next. Those are the names that would get people excited, not Lamont Roach.
And the thing that I really appreciate about Tank is he's a dog. That kind of that what he just said, you can put them earmuffs up and go at it. He kind of will assess you as well, and whatever he needs to do, he'll do it, you know.
Tank critics are using this as more proof that his management team is protecting him from tougher opponents. Keyshawn Davis, one of Tank's loudest critics, has already called this fight another cherry pick. And while Keyshawn might be stirring the pot for his own reasons, he's not totally wrong. Rook isn't on the same level as the people fans want to see Tank fight. If anything, this game feels like a filler, a way to keep Tank busy without risking his undefeated record. Still, Rook isn't backing down. He's selling himself as the man who's going to shock the world, and he's sticking to the idea that fans need to be ready for 2 fights. But that's the problem. Rook's attention seems to be on the payday, not the challenge. Talking about a return before the first fight even happens feels like confidence and more like wishful thinking.
Go to work. So you think he need to turn his phone off, man? Come off social as he trains for December?
Man, it's tough, but we try to ignore the noise. He do for the most part. He handling it very well, but we locked in, man. You know what I'm saying? Lamont just classy guy.
It's hard not to laugh at the irony that the fight hasn't even happened and Roach is already planning his next move as if Tank is just a stepping stone on his way to bigger things. But if history tells us anything, it's that fighters who underestimate Tank usually end up on the canvas, not in line for a rematch. For now, the fight is set for March 1st, and fans will have to wait to see if Rook can back up his big talk, but the odds aren't in his favor if this fight plays out the way most people expect. Rook won't be talking about a rematch. He'll be figuring out how to rebuild after another loss.
He's fighting, but this guy, Lamont Roach Jr. is not somebody to overlook. This guy can punch, this guy can box, this guy can do it all, and on top of that, these guys have a history together. These guys have been, have fought each other.
As for Keyshawn, he should first deal with his current problems for now. Besides, Andy Cruz seems to have had enough of Keyshawn Davis. In this annex, the 2020 Olympic gold medalist and undefeated pro fighter made a bold statement on social media, calling out Keyshawn and asking him to prove this claimed contract offer. Cruz scored 40 in the pros for Z versus I son not Makyo son. Send me the copy of the contract you're saying you sent a contract to my team. Send the picture, we all want to see it. That's the kind of talk that stirs the pot, and it's clear Andy wants to expose what he thinks is all bluff and no substance.
Say, bro, Andy Cruz might need a translator, but he know how to talk that shit, bro. He know how to talk that shit. Andy Cruz.
Keyshawn has been spinning this narrative that Cruz wouldn't take a fight with him, saying there's no interest on Andy's end. But if you look at their history, it doesn't add up. Cruz already taught Keyshawn not once, not twice, but 4 times in the amateurs, including a dominant win in the 2020 Olympic finals. That match wasn't even close. Cruz beat him 41, and it looked easy. Now Cruz is calling Keyshawn out, basically saying, if you're serious, prove it and show us the deal you're so proud of.
I think Keyshawn can beat him in the pros, even though Andy had his number, no doubt about it, throughout all the amateurs, including the Olympics. But I think, the pros is a different game. You guys know that. And I think Keyshawn, is showing us more power than Cruz.
The timing of this is no chance. Keyshawn coming off a flashy third-round knockout of Gustavo Lemos in Norfolk, Virginia. A performance his team hyped to the moon, but let's be real, Lemos was cherry-picked. He wasn't some top-tier contender, he was just another name that could pad Keyshawn's record. Lemos had already been beaten by Richardson Hitchens, and he looked like he didn't belong in the ring with Keyshawn. The fight was more about making Keyshawn look good than trying him. Andy Cruz, on the other hand, doesn't need smoke and mirrors to show his worth. His resume speaks for itself both in the amateurs and in the early stages of his pro career.
Broken down in that fight. So I don't think it was the same Lemos that fought Richardson Hitchens, but I think that's irrelevant. He demolished him. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to go in there. The crowd looked great in Norfolk, Virginia. It's great for boxing. Keyshawn's a great young fighter. And in time, I think he'll be a great fight for Gervonta Davis.
So why is Keyshawn avoiding Cruz? The answer seems clear. Cruz is bad news for Cruz's career. Losing to him again would shatter this picture of invincibility. The top rank is carefully designed. Keyshawn team knows this, which is why they've been so careful with his opponents. From Miguel Maduo to Gustavo L, the matching has been about keeping Keyshawn safe. It's a page right out of the Edgar Berlanga playbook. Protect the fighter, build the hype, and hope nobody sees the cracks. But when you've got someone like Cruz calling you out publicly, the cracks become impossible to ignore. Even Kenny Ellis, Gervonta Davis's coach, weighed in on this. Ellis said on Instagram he's trying to move everybody away from talking about him fighting Andy Cruz because he knows Andy Cruz will blow his shot at Gervonta Davis just like he blew his shot at the Olympic gold. That's a brutal judgment, but it hits the mark. Keyshawn has been spending more time calling out tanks than dealing with the unfinished business he has with Cruz if he really wants to show he's the best. Why not start by settling the score with the guy who's already beaten him 4 times?
Broken down in that fight. So I don't think it was the same Lemos that fought Richardson Hitchens, but I think that's irrelevant. He demolished him. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to go in there. The crowd looked great in Norfolk, Virginia. It's great for boxing. Keyshawn's a great young fighter. And in time, I think he'll be a great fight for Gervonta Davis.
Instead, Keyshawn keeps changing the goalposts. He's already talking about fighting WBO lightweight champion Denis Berinchyk in early 2025. That's fine, but it feels like an excuse to dodge Cruz. Keyshawn even went on the Monica Kopian YouTube account to say, if I send Cruz a contract, is he going to sign it? I don't know, that man ain't trying to fight me. I will knock him out. He's just not ready. But if Cruz isn't ready, why not show it? Why not send the contract and make the fight happen? Cruz's response, basically calling Keyshawn a liar, makes it clear who the public believes right now.
You know I got love for you, but oh my God, make sure you never fight Andy Cruz.
Eddie.
And let's not forget, Cruz doesn't just want this fight, he's nearly begging for it. The Matchroom promoted Cuban sees Keyshawn as unfinished business, a chance to put an exclamation point on a feud that's been one-sided from the start. If Keyshawn was serious about avenging his amateur losses, this would be the perfect opportunity, but Keyshawn knows the risks. A loss to Cruz wouldn't just be a blemish on his record. It would derive his whole career trajectory. And worse, it would blow any chance of getting a big money fight with Tank.
And let's see if Keyshawn can actually beat him. Because I put my house and my soul and my heart on the fact that Andy Cruz will beat Keyshawn 7 days a week.
Speaking of Tank, it's clear Keyshawn sees that fight as his golden ticket. He's been relentless in calling out the WBA lightweight champion, talking about how he's the man to beat him, but as Ellis pointed out, the Cruz situation is a roadblock. How can Keyshawn demand a fight with Tank when there's a guy in his own weight class who's already beaten him multiple times and is still waiting for a real challenge? Well, what do you think? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe to the station for more updates. See you in the next one.